This week on Temporally Scripted, we're going to bring you another news episode talking about broken promises from governments, which is a very rare thing these days. We don't see that very often. And cucumbers. There's a really, really interesting story coming today about cucumbers. But if you want to know what's going to happen, you're going to have to stick around, watch till the part of the video where we discuss this huge cucumber story. It's probably the biggest breaking cucumber news story of this century. I'm here again with my good friend Adam from across the city. Adam, how are you, my friend?
Very well. Very excited about the very important stories that we're about to cover today, especially the cucumbers and the thing about driving tests.
Yeah, driving tests is a bit of a wild one. It's I'm surprised. I've got a personal story from my nephew about the driving test situation as well, but we'll come to that later on in the episode.
Yeah, I've got a comedy story about that as well from someone I knew many years ago. But yeah, we'll get to that in time.
Leaving cliffhangers and everything. Look at our quality these days. It's amazing.
It's the kind of quality that gets you 22 subscribers. That's all I can say.
Don't forget to like and subscribe if you've watched in this far. We're ready for it. Get involved. Get involved. Anyway, so governments and breaking promises in the election. We've seen this week the amazing news that Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor of the Exchequer in the United Kingdom, for those of you that don't know, might well be raising taxes on the British population. They promise not to raise any taxes on that one day every 5 years we get that the government do what we tell them to do. Shocking.
It is unconfirmed, isn't it? It's just kind of been hinted at, but it's one of those things. It's not really a news story if you have like politician then breaking promises, shocker. It should be a shocking thing, but unfortunately it kind of isn't.
Yeah, I wonder why that is.
I really don't know, but it seems to happen quite a lot.
Yeah, it's almost like having a 5-year plan for a country is just not quite long enough.
It does seem a lot that way. And I just don't really understand it. I don't know if there's anything we could do about it either. Should there be a thing? I mean, I think if it was something serious, should we have a thing where if someone's deliberately lied to get into power with promises that they blatantly couldn't keep, should there be some kind of punishment?
Like stocks outside of the Houses of Parliament and
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, it doesn't have to be something like really brutal. It's not like 20 years in prison or like hard labor or something, but stocks outside of Parliament, few rotten tomatoes.
If there are any tomatoes, to be fair, if there's not like a shortage in the supermarket of tomatoes because we can't afford to keep the heating on in the greenhouses anymore. Yeah, maybe it could be that. I did just want to note back as well, another t-shirt design that we've got is, I don't really understand it, but you see, my dad was someone, and before people start shouting and going, oh, people died for your vote, my granddad actually did fight for the vote and never took part in a vote. And my father was a military man and he was always the same. And his reasoning behind it was, basically, we get them for one day every 5 years, and then the rest of the time they're there for big businesses, corporations, and themselves. So I can agree with, and I'm not an idealist like I was in my 20s, where I believe there should be an equal distribution of wealth, because in my opinion, that would be literally trying to fight one of the laws of nature. Like, I'm sure you've heard of 80-20, and 80% of the light goes to 20% of the plants, 80% of the women go to 20% of the guys. Like, you name it, right? Everything in nature has this 80-20 split. So therefore, finance is always going to be split 80-20, right? You're always going to have 20% of the people with 80% of the money. That's just the way it is. And if you want to fight against that, fair enough, but it is literally a law of existence. So good luck.
Which is interesting. I don't know if there is a really good reason why that should happen in society too, or maybe it's not exactly like that, but it seems like it's like the difference between that 80 and 20 in terms of finance and money, and so it's like that top 20%, which is probably a lot less than 20% when we think about it. They have like just extraordinary wealth, and then everybody else, their standard seems to be pretty low. But I guess it would be kind of fractal as well, because you could say like developed countries versus developing countries. And so when you think of like the amount of the wealth that's in, say, Europe and America compared to the rest of the world, so maybe you do have that, but it's like it's quite a big difference each way between the rich and the poor.
But I also think it's a distribution thing. Like I was in Hanoi last week and I saw Maserati, Lamborghini, Ferrari. Like it's now, even for like 100 square meter apartment, is almost $500,000 in any part of Hanoi right now. So like even in a country where the poor are poorer, the rich are still just as rich. But then I guess is that distribution, is that how it would be anyway? Like one of the things you blew my mind with a few episodes ago is the compound interest graph. And that keeps coming up more and more for me, in the fact that everything is like this compound interest graph, everything in existence, every activity, everything you do. So maybe that's wealth is on that as well, right? It's just, so you have super poor people and then everyone's around the same, and then it starts to get a bit richer, and then you've got, so this is where the 20% starts, which if you look at it, it is about the 20% where it starts to move. And then you've got some people right up here. You know, I wonder if it's just the way it is. But moving back to the whole politicians and lying and telling us stuff that's just to make us happy and to vote them in, they're all useless, weak people, and they're just sappling on the teeth of these people that actually earned the billions and billions. So
I mean, don't mince your words or anything, or cast any blame, or call into question someone's character.
I mean, I do like the phrase "suckling on the teeth," though. It's one of my favorites, and I don't think I've been able to use it in any previous episodes. But yeah, you know, they don't look like the kind of people that should be leading a nation, do they? In general, like, you know, I've noticed Reese Mogg, who does have a cool name, to be fair, has started making videos about the end of the Labour Party and Starmer and stuff. It's like, but it's not coming back your way, mate. As the Labour Party get less popular, the Tories are managing it, you know, just as well, to the point of not even existing. Yeah, exactly. And most of them are jumping ship to Farage's band. So
yeah, it is really bad. And I mean, we've got that thing, okay, they promised these things in the election, and it looks like they'll probably break some of those pledges now. Did they know that at the time? Maybe, probably, but you just say things to get into power. But the thing is, it's like every election's the same. It's always like, okay, we're gonna fund the NHS more, we're gonna build more schools, we're gonna have a better military, we're gonna have all this stuff, everything's gonna be cheaper, you're gonna get paid more. They all make this kind of promise. They never say the truth of like, well, as a country, we've been borrowing so much money that now debt to GDP ratio is basically 1-to-1, and we have to pay 100 billion just to pay the interest on this debt. And so because we borrowed so much in the past, the only way is down with this as the debt continues to increase. And we've just like, and it's over the course of like 50, 60 years or more, but as borrowing has increased to just this ludicrous amount, it's just where it can't be repaid. And a huge proportion of what the country has is going just to service this debt. And so you're not going to have this huge amount of spare money to throw at hospitals or whatever else, especially when I think it's around 50, I'm sure I do, it's around 52% of households in the UK are on benefits or receiving some sort of benefit.
Yeah, and who are we borrowing all of this money from? If every nation in the world is in masses of debt, where's the money coming from?
I don't really understand it, but the kind of phrase. I guess it must be like the Bank of England and things like that. Just the same as in America, they go to the Fed and then go, okay, let's sort this out. Let's print some money. And that's for that. So in a similar way to how debt creates money, when you go to a bank and say, I want a mortgage for like 200 grand or whatever, they don't as the bank, they don't take someone else's money out of their vault and give it to you. They just write that as debt, and then that money is just created.
Yeah.
So Elon Musk explained it as or something similar. And I won't use his exact language just in case, but he's like, you got two guys walking down the road. One guy goes, okay, there's a dog turd over there. I'll give you $100 if you eat that dog turd. He goes, okay, so he eats it, gets $100. Good. They carry on walking. The guy who ate the first turd, he sees another one. He goes, all right, I'll give you $100 if you eat that dog turd. So he does. And walking down, we're both feeling sick, about to throw up, and like, should we give this up now? And these guys are both economists, and we go like, no, and think about it. Our economy is booming. We've got like $200 in this economy already. But they
Yeah.
didn't. It's just the same $100, and it's that's kind of how it works because
Yeah.
it's not really built on anything.
I've heard a similar story to that where it's like there's three guys and one guy lends the other guy 10 quid or £10, and then he lends the third guy £10, and then the third guy lends £10 to the first guy. So now
Yeah.
everybody's had and spent £10, which is £30, but it doesn't really math.
Yeah, exactly. But then the thing is with that, it's also a bit like a game of like musical chairs or something like that. And at some point, the music stops and someone's short, or only one
Yeah.
person's ahead.
Or Man Two's gone and bought 4 Stellas or something.
Yeah, exactly. And a greasy kebab. But yeah, but this is it. So it's like when they're making all these promises, there's no way they'd have the money to do it. Plus, as we've spoken about before, they've dissuaded rich people from being in the UK. So we've had loads and loads of millionaires just leaving in this mass exodus. And it's the top 1% that pay 30 something percent of the tax. So all they can do is then raise national insurance or whatever else to try and recoup some money. So it then makes everybody that little bit poorer. And I mean, I don't know, but to me, it seems like a lot of things in the UK, it's just cooked. It's like, I don't know if you've spoken to anyone recently and they've had good experiences with healthcare or things like that. The stories I've heard haven't been so good, and it involves huge waiting lists, inefficiencies, just incompetence, all kinds of things. Or then you'll hear those stories about can't get an NHS dentist, so someone's got a pair of pliers and pulled their own teeth out or whatever. And it's just a mess, and it shouldn't be, but it is. And it's just misallocation of funds into all kinds of other things that don't make sense while not
Yeah,
looking
like
after the people.
like safe spaces for homeless drug users to go in high-end city centers.
Yeah, or huge amounts of money for various hotels and things for people that have recently arrived claiming that they need asylum when they probably don't. I mean, I saw something just taking it back to you mentioned, I think it was about your granddad who was in like the war and things like that. I watched a clip yesterday and they were interviewing a guy who was in the Second World War and he was like 104 years old. And he was saying, like, look, I was there, my friends died, I can still see all those white gravestones now. And now when I look around at Britain, I don't think it was worth it.
Crazy.
And he was just dismayed at the state of things. And it's true, if you look around at what's happening, if you look around at the leaders and things like that, you know, if you try and compare Starmer or Boris Johnson to someone like Winston Churchill, there's a big difference. Yeah.
This old two-tier care. Yeah, it is. It's interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, if you do want to hear my idea, please send me an email to jack@temporallyscripted.com, which is not our
And
email
£20.
address. But yeah, and £20, and I will absolutely tell you my idea to fix the United Kingdom. But yeah, I think people are just, it's like sales, right? When we're all so tired of being sold to that if you go in and do a traditional method of trying to make sales, people just ignore you and they don't want to talk to you because they're so used to being sold to all the time. And it's the same with like politicians, isn't it? People are almost, they've got getting past anger into apathy because you're just so used to them telling you stuff that you just know is never going to happen.
Maybe it should be a bit like sales. If you work in a call center or something like that, selling Sky TV or whatever, like I have, you'll get your basic rate, which is rubbish, and then you'll get commission depending how many sales you've made. Maybe in politics it should be like that. Make the basic wage, yeah, pretty bad actually. Let's make it not too appealing. And then if you do really well and you can prove that you've really accomplished like the task that you were given, then get a pay rise, get some nice Christmas bonus or something like that. Maybe there should be some incentives. Have give them like the opportunity to earn a lot more.
And this is, you know, there is some hope in there as well. I sent you a video earlier on, which you won't have had time to look at yet, but there's this movement called LFG, Looking for Growth, at the moment in the UK, headed up by a guy called Matt Clifford, who's the co-founder of this startup called Entrepreneur First. He used to be a chair of the Advanced Research and Invention Agency. And he's got this process that he's bringing out. It's called Make the UK Rich Again. Right? And he's trying to shift the culture. Well, it's, you know, he's really pushing for making the UK like more ambitious and optimistic, and like bringing a political party through that is about how do we become richer as a country. And it's almost become like a dirty thing to say, you know, like people are almost like, because of the UK's history and the way things were done in the past, people are like ashamed and feel like we can't even say we want to make the country rich again. But that is the solution to the problem, is to make more money, right? One way or another.
The system, have more people paying taxes, have more people contributing. All that makes a better place, really. Create more jobs, build all the things that you need. But again, there's a lot of problems with that as well. It's all that thing of like, it's linked to taxes. And then I think we've mentioned it before, where you'll have some Labour politician going, okay, the UK is going to become a hub for AI. And it's like, how are you going to run the data center when you have the highest industrial electricity prices in the world? You know, am I going to put my data center here or in America, where it's like a quarter of the price for electricity? You know, it's like, I don't know. There's just certain stumbling blocks that are big ones to get over, I think.
But I also think there's other ways, you know. It's like, as a nation that's always had a way around things and a way of figuring stuff out, it is possible. It's just we don't do anything innovative. It feels like we are now followers of everybody else as a nation. And instead of trying to do something new or different or think of our own ideas, it's like, oh, AI, let's jump on that. Oh, this, let's jump on that. And we're like copycat other countries that we can't possibly compete with on that level. But there are things that we can compete with, you know, like being charming and, you know, saying good morning to people in the street and opening doors, sarcasm, comedy. Maybe that's our role in the future.
Maybe because we're sucking at everything else.
Yeah, exactly. But we're still the world's best. They still had a British guy hosting the Golden Globes for 7 years.
A few years
Rock
ago.
stars a few years ago. We've still got Coldplay. Anyway, moving on. You mentioned AI and tech. It brings us nicely into the next story. I do love a good segue, although whenever we say segue, it makes me, for some reason, think of those weird machines that you stand on and wheel around, which seem to have disappeared from history. And it's not spelt the way you would expect either. But yeah, speaking about AI and technology, so the next story is about Nvidia, which if you bought shares of 5 years ago, you definitely would be sat around all day touching yourself and not doing any work because they've gone crazy. But things may not be as rosy as they seem now because China doesn't use them anymore because of everything that's gone on. So Nvidia have gone from a 95% market share to a 0% market share because there's no China revenue in their forecasts. They've been banned.
Yeah. Yeah, so China just went, yeah, we don't want you here and we don't want your chips. But now China's gone, actually, it doesn't matter, we'll make our own, which won't be as good. But I would imagine the thing is with China, they can do things at such a scale where, say, instead of like for every 100 chips of Nvidia, it might take 500 of the Chinese ones to do the same thing. But they're all right with that. They'll just make them and make bigger data centers, I would think.
We've already seen it play out in other markets like manufacturing and industrial. In the past, people would buy a German machine that would last 100 years and depreciate over a longer period of time. But they could buy 5 Chinese ones for the same price and they might only last 20 years apiece, but they don't care. It doesn't matter. Right. And the initial outlay is less. So they just go ahead and do it. So we've seen this play out already. And I think what's happened as well is like China know that the reason that they are reliant on the rest of the world is because of the precious elements or whatever.
Rough minerals.
That's the one. That's why I've got you here, Adam. You see, it's why it's good you're here every week, excited to translate for me
Just
to
to
the
chime
audience. Yeah, just to translate now. But they basically went through that list and figured out how they can get everything domestically because China's massive. So now they're in that position where they don't really need other nations to provide stuff, and eventually they'll just figure stuff out themselves because they're good at copying, learning how to do things.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're still, they don't seem to have the tech that the US has. I think for them, it is a loss for them not to be using Nvidia chips, but that's just going to be how it is. Will they be able to catch up over time? Maybe. There is that worrying thing, though, that we're making this AI thing. And as we know, it can be biased. It can have a certain almost ideology in a way, depending how it's programmed. And it's just that thing, who do we want to win? Do you want it to be OpenAI? Do you want it to be DeepSeek or the Chinese government? Do we want it to be Grok? I don't know. It's something, but I think we've got to be very careful of.
Do you not think that DeepSeek sounds like it's an Indian AI?
I would like to hear it in Indian accent.
Yeah, we're not going to do that, ladies and gentlemen. So it's definitely not going to happen. But it does. Whenever I hear DeepSeek, it just makes me think India. Yeah, no idea why. But yeah, I guess who knows? I think both have their own benefits and downsides on who wins that AI battle. A lot of it, I'm not even sure how much it's going to make a difference. The hype is crazy today because today, well, when you're watching this, it'll be a few days ago, ChatGPT 5.1 has just hit the market. I noticed they must be hedging their bets a little bit. If you remember when ChatGPT 4 came out, we got 4.5. So they were like, oh, it's a whole half step better. Whereas this time, maybe because ChatGPT 5 was so underwhelming, they're just going, it's ChatGPT 5.1. Set the expectations low. I've not had a chance to test it out yet, but I mean, on both sides, these things are mass collecting data from us. And I think everything is scary when it's unknown, right? As humans, we're always scared of things we don't know. So if you're from a Western nation, you're likely to be happier for OpenAI to take over and win. Whereas if you're from the eastern side of the world, you probably prefer a DeepSeek or whatever. What I find quite interesting is there isn't a British AI or a big British AI company that I know of. There probably is, but I don't know of a British thing, and I don't know of a European thing. And it makes me think, so have we just accepted again, like I said earlier, we've accepted that we're secondary to the rest of the world. It's all right. America have built one, so what, we don't need to bother building our own. It seems like ever since World War II, we've just been like, space. What? Well, they're going to go anyway.
We'll leave that to someone else.
We'll just chill here with our feet up in the sun lounger, just watching everyone else do cool stuff. You know, I don't get it.
And you'd think after, I mean, some of the stories that you hear from the Second World War about the crazy innovation and inventiveness that various British people had, it seemed like the sort of culture had as a whole. It was just so much amazing stuff. And then you fast forward to now, there doesn't seem to be much of that going around. And you would think that it'd still be ingrained somehow in the British kind of psyche or way of looking at things. But maybe there just isn't the money to do it, and there hasn't been for a long time because everything's just been on this gradual down curve.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's an earthquake going on where Adam is right now, which is why the screen was shaking slightly. I have to say, over time, I did make a mistake of buying. So I bought a local grade monitor, which I guess is either Vietnamese or Chinese, and it's great. Everything about it is fantastic, but the stand is so low quality that if I move anything, it just the whole thing shakes around all over the place. I think this is, it's a testament to the state of society right now. Is everything's just more wobbly and not quite as well built as it used to be,
Yeah, I can see that. Going back to the thing we were saying about Britain and the way it's going, if we use the monitor analogy, then it would be the other way around for Britain. It would be like the stand would be really good, that little bit, but the main monitor would be terrible. It'd be fuzzy, it'd be grainy, probably some lines across it, but a few little bits are pretty good. Like just the same way that the government's really good at like handing out fines for like minute little things or sending someone to jail for social media, but the really big things that are important, just can't deal with.
It sort of sounds like the Soviet Union in the turn of the century before last. It's a similar situation with less starvation, of course.
And maybe the plan is to reach similar levels of bureaucracy and things like that with your digital ID and all that kind of thing. I don't know.
And just a frog boil. Yeah, I wonder if there's an angle on this Nvidia stuff, just back to that, where, so obviously, like Beijing has said that they want to take any of these chips out of things that are only 30% or less complete. Any foreign chips have been locked out. All of this kind of stuff. I wonder if there's been an attempt somewhere to weaponize these chips in how they operate, because surely that's possible, right? Like if you remember the whole thing with Huawei, or it's Huawei, but I think
Huawei.
in the Huawei. Yeah, they were obviously, there was concerns there about these chips gathering data and like the phones listening in and passing information back to the Chinese government and stuff. And
didn't they, just off the top of my head, I might have this wrong, but wasn't there a big government contract years ago in the UK? And Huawei were going to do all like the mobile phone masts and things
5G.
like that. But then it was discovered, that they could actually listen in or kind of siphon off some data and see what was going on, which obviously is massive national security threat.
Yeah, because I mean, we only want our population listened to by our allies, right? That's how it works usually.
Something like that.
Canada listens to the UK listens to like the EU, America listens, and they kind of give each other the information instead, and that's fine. So it's not protecting people in the country, just so everybody knows. It's about protecting the people that are not part of that circle of, I don't want to call it a circle jerk, but that thing that's going on where they all listen to each other's people for our safety,
Yeah, along those lines.
I mean, the older I get, the less I care as well. Like I used to be like, oh, I don't want them listening to this and that. It's like, I really don't do anything that interesting. I might look at the odd dodgy website doing market research for, because the best titles come from porn sites. So I occasionally find myself on one of those, and, my Apple Watch might slow a slight increase in heart rate as I'm looking at these websites because I'm just so excited by the marketing potential of the titles. But I don't really care if people know what I'm looking at and what I'm observing and stuff. I honestly couldn't really give a shit.
I do kind of know what you mean, where when I was younger, I would care a lot more about it. It's like if we're bringing in, I don't know, ID cards or digital IDs or whatever else, or even doing like the census and things like that. It's like, oh, well, I'm going to give the government all that information. I think now there's so many companies that know so much information about you anyway. You kind of think, well, does it matter if government knows what toothpaste I use or something like that? Because the amount of data that's been gathered from via Google, Facebook, probably TikTok's terrible for it, whatever else you've been on, it's a huge amount of data that they know about you already, and you probably don't have that much more to lose, I would think.
This is it, right? It's you've already had the equivalent of being fully, strapped up, bent over, whatever else. You might as well just crack on. You can't close the gate now. It's already done.
The horse is bolted.
Do you know what I mean? It's like the equivalent of Paris Hilton getting married again and telling the guy that he has to wait until the wedding night. It's just what for what? We've all seen it.
Many people have seen it.
I don't know if you've noticed how many more times you get a password compromise now. Google tells you. Mine says I've got 157 passwords that have been compromised or whatever. And again, it's because now this data is
data leaks.
Yeah, in data leaks. So it's happening more and more and more all of the time. So, probably in some ways the government knows less about us than all the companies that we deal with and work with and stuff, and probably buy the data from them.
One of the worst things with the government having so much data about us, or getting more if there was going to be digital IDs and things, is that it's just a security risk. I mean, I don't know about other countries, but in the UK, there's so many different government systems that have been hacked and then data taken from there. Or there's even, I remember like mad ones where there'd be like a guy who's like a senior civil servant, and you had all these like, it was loads of files and details about like a lot of people, and they're on these like DVD discs, and he just left them on a train, and I think someone later found them, kind of thing. There's all these kinds of things where it's just like a security risk, and that's the only thing. I'd rather, in some ways, Facebook know my password and know my birthday and things than trusting that with the government, because I can't trust them to keep it a secret or not let it get stolen by someone else.
Someone's going to get hold of it because of the fact that there's no infrastructure really, or good infrastructure to hold it safely,
Well, it's that thing in the UK. I don't know if you've seen the news recently where there's loads of prisoners that just keep escaping. I can't remember how many there are at the moment, but it's like, because there was a couple of higher profile cases, but then they looked into it and it's like loads of prisoners just keep getting released from prison by accident. And it's like,
yeah. Have you seen that Chinese circus act where they get a load of people and they're all stood like in a row, and then people go on their backs, and it becomes like a human pyramid?
Right, okay, yeah.
So apparently, because UK prisons are so overcrowded now, it's just like that. So people could just walk up the pyramid over the wall and off they go.
Well, yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, they're just straight out, no problem, over. And there's holes in most of the walls and stuff now anyway. And, you got like one prison guard. I think they've started looking into like Venezuelan prisons to see how they can manage things in a similar way.
Right. Well, it'd be a deterrent.
I don't know if you've ever been in Nottingham. They have the Galleries of Justice, which is like an old courthouse, and they've set it all up about like how prisons used to be 150 years ago or whatever. Back then, they did used to just let the prisoners that had been in there longer become the guards, basically. So that might be a solution. If you couldn't afford food or your family didn't bring any food in for you, you had to sell your teeth and get it replaced maybe with like a horse's tooth or whatever. Yeah, so maybe that is a solution for the future of prisons. Or maybe we could just stop locking people up for riding their bike with no hands and actually catch some real criminals.
Yeah, you could do, but that takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. It's going to happen for a while.
So moving on from China and back into the system in the UK, right? And it's the story I alluded to earlier about my nephew actually tells us about the system before we get into this story. So my mum messaged my nephew the other week and asked if he'd booked his driving test. And he said, "Oh, yeah, I've booked it. It's for the end of March." And I was like, "March? How does that make sense?" So apparently the waiting list right now to do a driving test in the UK is 22 weeks.
Of course it is.
22 weeks. So they've just brought the military driving testers in to do an extra load of tests to try and bring it down to an 8-week target.
That's insane. How did it get this bad? How can it be so disorganized that? Because that's affecting all kinds of things, because people become more productive when they have the ability to drive, because they can transport themselves, they can transport others, everything just makes it more productive. So that's just another thing that's less money being made, less money floating around the economy. Only a small amount, but it's just like another thing on top of a vast array of everything else. It is a drop in the ocean, but it's just mental.
Yeah, exactly. So that made me laugh. And then bringing us to the story today. So this reminded me of my dad and what he said about my mum. He said it would have been cheaper to train a fighter pilot for the RAF than it would have been to get my mum to pass her driving test. But recently, it looks like somebody's beat that. So apparently there's a learner driver in the UK that has failed their theory test, which is the written test, for those of you that don't know, 128 times.
That's quite a lot.
Yes.
What stage do you think they go?
Maybe the bus is a better option.
By about attempt 15, I think I'd definitely be thinking, maybe this is just not going to happen. Maybe I should just sort of quit. It's good to sort of have consistency and dedication and things like that, but like 128 times, would you not at least say, right, where did I go wrong last time? I'll work on it for next time.
Yeah, and you can even get, so I remember, probably not this, but you can do it online now, I guess, but you used to get like a CD, which you could put into your CD-ROM in your computer, and then you can take the actual test like as many times as you want at home. So
right, yeah. So there must be a website that does that these days. Many websites, I would imagine.
Yeah, so £2,944 is what they spent doing this. And I don't even know if they've actually passed it yet or not.
No, I couldn't see if it didn't say anything.
Well, it said that. Yeah, it said that the record number of attempts before this was 21.
this person smashed the record. You know, it's a big achievement.
Maybe that was the aim, because the world we live in now. Maybe they were like, oh, what can I get famous about? How can I get more views on my TikTok?
Just
Like,
clout chasing on social media.
yeah, what could I do to do? Well, I wonder what the record number of times for taking a theory test is. 21. I mean, by
I've
this
got
time,
$3,000.
you've probably got your own locker and your own PC at the DVLA testing center.
Got your own coffee mug with your name on. It's like, oh, Dave's coming in tomorrow for the
Yeah.
129th time.
And I mean, I wonder what the waiting list is. Someone here from the AA, Emma Bush, she's the managing director at the AA driving school. She said that, it's easy to underestimate the level of knowledge required to pass the theory test.
I mean, I remember being a kid and there was still like a couple of little books lying around in my house when my parents had learned to drive, and it was like the highway code. So it's only like a thin little thing, but had all of that in. You'd only really need to know that, some common sense, and a couple of other bits, and that would be it.
Yeah, I did mine on my 17th birthday because I lived in like the arsehole of nowhere. If you didn't have a car,
I thought you were going to say I did mine on my 17th attempt.
No, first attempt, and my driving test, by the way, just clean through. The driving equivalent of an angel poo, right? It was just like boom, done, driving. But yeah, it's because I lived in the middle of nowhere. I went in and did it, and it wasn't very difficult to do. So I kind of don't understand it. I think once you've not passed it 5 times, you should probably get a ban. But yeah,
it's like me going and having trials for like Real Madrid or something like that, and I keep going and going, and they go like, look, for one, you're terrible at football. 2, you're 43. It's not going to happen.
it's over for you. Those days are gone. Yeah, those days are gone. I'm still recovering from playing football 3 weeks ago. So it's it's not going to happen. I read a bit further into this story, and it gives us an insight into why my nephew had to wait so long. So apparently, there's a load of bots on the government website for booking driving tests, and individuals and companies are using these bots to book driving test slots and then resell them at a profit. Which is apparently not illegal, but it's a violation of the DVSA's terms of use.
Right, okay. It could be someone that's just really smart and just saw some kind of loophole in the system and just went, huh, interesting. And maybe it's come from that.
I think they should put these people in the overcrowded prisons that we've got. Like it's a government service. Like, how is that not illegal? Like, why are they messing around with all these other laws? And it's like, that's like the equivalent of booking doctor's appointments for people on the NHS and then selling them a profit. Oh, what do you think's wrong?
Good idea. Let me just get my notebook.
What do you think's wrong with your cancer? Yeah, 100 quid. 100 quid. I can get you an appointment. Otherwise, probably going to die of cancer.
Take it or leave it.
Up to you. Your choice. But ingrown toenail, tenner. Because it's not as bad a problem. You could scale the pricing based on how serious the problem is as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what we'd call it. speedydoctors.co.uk.
Speedy doctors. Sick child, 500 quid.
Have like some deals for like Black Friday and things like that, and different times of the year, Boxing Day sale.
But stock up now on your January cold and flu appointments at the doctor. You could do gift cards.
Jabs are a tenner.
Yeah, gift cards. Christmas is coming. Not sure what to get grandma. She's definitely going to get sick at some point. Get her this 1-year voucher for, a quick doctor's appointment.
Yeah, maybe this is the way forward. You just need to monetize and tokenize everything, and off we go.
Beautiful. I love it. So, learner drivers, anything more to say on this?
I don't think so, really. I think, like you said, maybe there should be like so many attempts that you can have, And then after that, you should just maybe say, well, you can try again in 10 years and see if it's different. Because it's a bit, it just seems crazy, really.
There's got to be something going on there.
Yeah. I don't know what, but something is. And maybe some people just aren't meant to be on the roads. There's nothing wrong with that. They're probably really good at other things and could do something else. But I think driving isn't going to be one of them.
It's not up there, is it? It's definitely not up there. Have you ever piloted a motor vehicle, Adam?
Only a motorbike.
Yeah, motorbike. I remember we've obviously driven up and down on the bikes where we are, and of course you are fully licensed and insured to do so. So that's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Moving on.
Funny story I had about driving tests was when I was in college. It was about that time when everyone was taking the tests and things like that. And there was this guy, and he looked dead excited on one night. He's, oh, I'm doing my driving test tonight. It's going to be dead good. And the next morning, he gets on this college bus looking not so happy. And it's like, so how did the test go, mate? He's like, oh, I kind of crashed. Just thought it was really funny.
It's not the best way to go about things, isn't it? Yeah, that's definitely a major. It's definitely a major.
I think so. Crashing into another car on a roundabout, not so great.
Yeah, you don't look up at her and go, "Is that a minor? Can we carry on?" I think we can get back to the. That'll buff out. That'll buff out.
Yeah.
Just get a bit of teacup.
Yeah, teacup fixes everything.
Bit of teacup, bit of WD-40. It'll be sound.
No, not any different.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I guess from record-breaking amounts of theory tests, next we've got a record breaker of a completely different kind.
We have indeed, and this is the story, that we kind of brought you guys the excitement. The reason people are still here listening right now, and if you are, don't forget, subscribe, hit the bell. I don't know why I pointed down when I said hit the bell. It wasn't deliberate. It is down there, but yeah. Anyway. Somebody has broken the world record for snapping cucumbers.
It's just pretty. Just gotta let that sink in for a second.
Just let that sink in. The world record has been broken for snapping cucumbers, and the new level for 30 seconds is 65 cucumbers. David Rush has broken this record. What a legend. He's done it on Spanish TV. The TV show is El Hormiguero. Adam, help me out here, please. I know your Spanish is very good.
Okay. Yeah, maybe. I don't know if I can find it now.
That is cool. It's cool.
Hormiguero. Yeah, which means the anthill, apparently. So, yeah. I watched the video several times because I found it absolutely captivating. It's probably TV highlight of the year, in my opinion. What did you think of this achievement?
I mean, the technique is just outstanding. I've just never seen a technique like it when it comes to snapping cucumbers. In fact, I've never seen anyone else snapping cucumbers, to be honest with you.
I was thinking that I've never actually seen someone snap a cucumber. Why is there a world record for snapping cucumbers?
I mean, there's world records for all kinds of stuff, isn't there? I saw one before where it's the world record for eating baked beans with a toothpick.
Oh, right. Very interesting hand gesture.
I wonder how they train for these things.
But yeah, there are so many of these world records, and I looked a bit more into it. So David Rush, who holds the record for cucumber snapping, he's got a lot more world records as well, around 300. There was 1 year where he broke 52 world records in 52 weeks, which is mad. And yeah, so I was having a look at it. So some of his other achievements in the world records is like most juggling catches in 1 minute with 3 balls, longest duration juggling 3 objects, which was 13 hours, most vinyl records smashed in 30 seconds, fastest time to fold and throw a paper aircraft, wow. Paper rolls balanced on head, solo. So there must be a team one as well. I don't know. And it just goes on and on with those kinds of things. So he's almost like a professional Guinness World Record breaker.
So could he get the world record for the most number of world records?
He did, yeah. I think he had that.
That's one of the ones in his list.
Achievements.
That's wild. I mean, I do like some of these world records and wacky things. I think they bring some light humor to the world when it's really needed. Do you remember the little short fat guy who used to balance crates on his head? And he used to be on like Blue Peter and stuff in the 90s. And he had this special hat that he bought one day. And this hat was the basis of him balancing stuff on his head. And he started balancing minis on his head and stuff. So there's this guy, and he used to balance minis on his head. And I kid you not, he said the reason he started it is because he found a really good hat that was good for balancing stuff on his head. And this
strengthen this.
This is the Britain that we've lost, right? No longer do you have a dude who can balance minis on his head, right? I mean, maybe the Beast has started doing it, but yeah, there was just this little random guy, John Evans, his name was, who just liked to balance heavy shit on his head.
Good. I mean, why not? It's commendable.
Yeah, so that was his talent, and he spent his whole career just going and balancing stuff on his head, like, you know, women in boats, all kinds of stuff.
So when you were saying earlier about that guy who's launching some business or enterprise to make the UK stronger and better again, is that the kind of thing that he'll be promoting, do you think?
Yeah, you know, John Evans balancing minis on his head, Fred Dibner making videos of taking down, you know, industrial stuff, which if you've never watched a bit of Fred Dibner, you should. Oh, man, it takes you back to a simpler time.
It really does. It's wholesome viewing on TV.
Absolutely.
This kind of thing.
Yeah. Do you think there's a world record for pulling kernels off sweet corn?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Because there'll be people doing like different techniques. So you probably have some long kind of skewer things, and it'll be someone's got some other crazy way that they've found.
You can see why some of these skills are probably you know, you can use them in other areas of life to break other world records and stuff. You know, you've got like this and all of this stuff. There's quite a lot of, you know, like tuning the radio, for example, or wiping a stain off a dirty t-shirt, you know, all of these kind of things.
And it needs to be a lot of practice to get these kinds of techniques right. But yeah, it is interesting. It's funny as well, isn't it? Because that thing of the guy breaking cucumbers, there's something about it that we go, wow, that's really interesting. It's not in a way, but why do you think we go, oh, that's cool? Oh, wow, good. It's like we seem happy to hear that news.
Yeah, there's just some novelty to hearing something quite that random. You know, there's something like extra random about it that just makes you, it's like a lighter news story. Like, I'd much rather read stuff about that than, you know, all the other stuff that you see on the news about wars and potential wars and like potential like things.
I guess it's almost like a kind of pattern interrupt or something as well, in a way. I don't know, because it's something that you're just not programmed to expect or think is going to happen. You just read that, it's like, okay. And I definitely think you're right, where it is a welcome break from everything else that's in the news. Do you remember years ago when you got on like a train or a bus in the morning, you'd get a free copy of the Metro?
Oh, yeah.
And it was always like you'd have like news on the front, second page news. I think the third page, it'd just have some like really light-hearted story. So it'd be like, oh, a cow and a monkey have made friends or something like that. Or this weird thing happened in Bognor Regis. And it was just like, it was really cool because like miserable. Oh, right. Hey. And it just sort of cheers you up.
Some level of randomness that just brightens the day ever so slightly.
Yeah, and just to remind everyone that it's not all bad.
This is it. We need more cucumber snappers in the world. I think that's the note we can leave today's episode.
That's the key takeaway.
That is the key takeaway. Thank you, everybody, for coming along today. Thank you, Adam. coming along. I'm talking like it's a wedding. Thank you, everybody, for coming along today and supporting us. But we do appreciate all 22 of you subscribers, even though 3 of them at least are me and a couple are probably Adam. But if you have got to this point, don't forget, like, subscribe. We will be back again next week. And as long as I don't lose the recording in Riverside, we will be good. And yeah, until next time, Adam, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure.
Indeed it is. Okay, folks. See you next time.
See you next time, everyone.